Due to the remnants of Typhoon Gemi, several areas in Hunan Province experienced heavy rainfall, compounded by reservoir discharges, leading to rapidly rising river levels. From July 28th to 29th, the Juan River, flowing through Xiangtan County, breached its banks in 3 places, submerging several villages and displacing approximately 5,000 residents. According to Chinese media reports, Xiangtan County experienced its largest flood since records began in 1972 due to the heavy rain. The Juan River exceeded its historical highest water level by 0.41 meters, surpassing the guaranteed safety level by 3.04 meters. On July 29th, around 1:40 p.m., a section of the Juan River dike in Huazhong village within Xiangtan County broke. With a breach length of over 30 meters, the floodwaters quickly inundated the village, turning it into a vast expanse of water. Local villagers were forced to evacuate urgently, and the extent of casualties remains unclear. Despite official claims that all residents have been safely evacuated, reports from Chinese media, the paper, following rescue teams indicate that many villagers are still stranded in their homes. Videos circulating online show an elderly person hiding alone on a rooftop, looking helpless. Other videos showed several other villagers hiding on a rooftop, waiting for rescue. On the evening of July 28th, around 8 p.m., the river began to overflow the 4th new dike in Xingtan village in Yushuhe town, followed by a breach. By 3:58 a.m. on July 29th, the breach had expanded to 77 meters. The water levels inside and outside the dike were only 0.01 meters apart, and the flow rate had slowed. According to technical personnel, further dike repairs would only be possible once the water levels inside and outside the dike equalize. Reports indicate that floodwaters in Xingtan village and other affected areas have reached depths of over 2 meters. As of 7:30 a.m. on the 29th, 3,832 residents of Xingtan village and Xinghu village have been evacuated, with most seeking refuge with relatives and others being housed at Hekou Middle School in Xiangtan County. Local villagers reported that water began flooding their homes around 8 p.m., reaching the 2nd floor within an hour. They barely had time to move their belongings before reaching safety. In addition to dike breaches, online sources indicate that the Juan River has overflowed its banks in over 100 places, flooding numerous villages and farmlands along its course. Local resident Miss Chu reported that her hometown, Yuhua Village in Xiangtan County, located along the Juan River, experienced the river overflow in the low-lying fields in the afternoon of the 28th. The floodwaters quickly spread to higher residential areas. Ms. Chu noted that most of the young people from her hometown work elsewhere, leaving behind primarily the elderly and children. During the flood, the few young people remaining in the village actively organized voluntary rescue efforts. Other locals also commented on the situation, saying, "The losses are substantial. We didn't evacuate in time, and there are many elderly people. So many cars have been submerged. Almost every household has suffered losses." Ms. Zhou, a villager, owns a supermarket near the dike. On the night of the breach, she heard village officials shouting, "The dike has collapsed." She and her husband hurriedly grabbed cigarettes from the supermarket and ran upstairs. They made several trips, rescuing over 100 cartons of cigarettes. Soon, the water flooded the supermarket, submerging the 1st floor. The couple stayed on the 2nd floor, waiting until morning. They were rescued around 7 a.m. on the 29th. In Futang village, Meiling Bridge town, about 1 kilometer north of Guojiachao village, Ms. Zhao's home was also flooded. Ms. Zhao reported, "It rained continuously on the 28th, and the water kept getting deeper. By the afternoon, cars couldn't drive out anymore. By the evening, the 1st floor of my house was flooded, and the fields were deeply submerged too. Then we heard that the embankment had breached." Ms. Zhao said that while the area typically experiences floods in the summer, the water rose much faster this year, trapping many people in their homes, including her family of 10. Compared to nearby Xinghu village and Guojiachao villages, Futang village's flooding was not as severe. Although she and her family are currently safe, the biggest challenge is the lack of clean drinking water. Additionally, on July 28th, around 6:40 p.m., a breach occurred in the Liushuwan dike of Longtan village in Xiangtan County, with a length of approximately 10 meters. According to official reports, about 800 residents were evacuated to safety. As of around 3 p.m. on the 29th, the breach at Liushuwan was sealed, and the accumulated water inside the dike was mostly drained. The water level at the Huashi hydrological station on the Juan River has dropped below the warning level. Chinese media reports indicate that the first breach at the Huashi town section of the river occurred more than 50 kilometers from the Juan River's confluence with the Xiang River. The second breach in the section at Yishuhe town is located on the southern bank of the Juan River, over 17 kilometers from the Xiang River's confluence. The third breach in the Huazhong village section of Hekou town is on the northern bank of the Juan River, adjacent to the Yishuhe town across the river. Public records show that the Juan River is a primary tributary of the Xiang River, with a mainstream length of 103 kilometers. The river's width ranges from 100 to 150 meters, making it the largest river within Xiangtan County and the primary source of drinking water. The Juan River flows through 7 townships in Xiangtan County, covering 68 kilometers before joining the Xiang River at Guazhui in Hekou town. The lower reaches of the Juan River are susceptible to backwater effects from the Xiang River, leading to severe flooding. Over the past 20 years, Xiangtan County has experienced 12 significant floods, 9 of which occurred in the Juan River basin. Regarding the recent breaches along the Juan River in Xiangtan County, the causes are linked to heavy rainfall and rapid water increases due to upstream reservoir discharges, which exceeded the dike's capacity. Additionally, there may be issues with the quality and strength of the dikes, raising concerns about potential substandard construction. Many netizens have expressed their concerns. One said, "With the incident at Dongting Lake, this is the second breach in Hunan this year, both labeled as once-in-a-millennium floods." Others questioned, "Repeated breaches in Hunan demand attention from leaders. Is it a natural disaster or human error? Perhaps substandard construction? An investigation is necessary to avoid any regrets." Videos circulating online show a suspended breach in a section of the Xiang River in Wangcheng District, Changsha City, Hunan Province, on July 28th. According to the China Meteorological Administration, due to the impact of Typhoon Gemi, at least 10 provinces and cities experienced heavy rainfall from July 28th to 29, with some areas facing extreme downpours. Hunan Province was the hardest hit. On the afternoon of the 28th, the Hunan Meteorological Observatory upgraded its orange storm warning to red. Continuous heavy rain also led to flooding at Changsha railway station again on July 28th, causing significant train delays. Local netizens questioned, "Flooding twice in a month, once at the beginning and once at the end. What's going on with this railway station?" Changsha City itself resembled a vast ocean, with the drainage system seemingly failing again. "Oh my gosh, I'm not driving on the road. It's like driving through the Sea of Changsha. The water is so deep."
It's been pouring in Changsha today. The water at Changsha railway station has already risen over 1 meter deep. All the shops along the street are flooded, and the water has even flowed back into the basement of Kejia Computer City. It's really a disaster caused by both nature and human actions.
Some tourists who had just gotten off the train were bewildered, dragging their suitcases through the water.
We have no idea how deep it is in the middle, and the critical problem is that the water is still rising. The sewers can't drain it anymore.
Floodwaters also into underground shopping centers, inundating many supermarkets. As expected, many waterlogged cars have emerged again. Videos show vehicles being swept to the edges of underpasses and many others submerged. Additionally, numerous cars were washed off cliffs. This car got flooded yesterday and is still here today. The owner probably just abandoned it. These are all cars washed over by the flood. There's a black car over there, a white car here, and a red car over there, all brought here by the flood. In Huanghuatang, Changsha City, on July 29th, after the floodwaters receded, streets were littered with debris and garbage carried by the flood. Rebuilding after the disaster is going to be tough. I wonder if the government will pay attention to this. Every shop has been hit by the flood, with losses running into hundreds of thousands. According to Chinese media reports, Zixing County in Chenzhou, Hunan, experienced record-breaking rainfall starting on the 26th, with some stations recording the highest 24-hour rainfall in Hunan's history. The heavy rain caused power and internet outages in Bamianshan Township, which is located deep in the mountains, and the roads to the outside world were also cut off. Currently, 8 out of 10 villages in Bamianshan Township are still out of contact. Reports indicate that the Pingshu weather station in Zixing County recorded 600 millimeters of rainfall in 24 hours on the 27th, setting a new record. The heavy rain also caused the water level on the Dongjiang Reservoir to rise sharply. At 11 a.m. on July 27th, the Dongjiang Dam in Zixing began discharging water, marking the second time in history that the dam has opened its gates for flood discharge. The flood discharge from this dam, the largest double-curvature thin-shell dam in Asia and the second largest in the world, immediately submerged towns downstream, including Zixing, Wucheng, and Yongxing, with water depths reaching up to 3 meters. The Zixing tourist area was inundated, leaving residents with nowhere to escape, all hoping for the floodwaters to recede soon. The flooding also led to widespread disruptions, water, power, and internet services in many towns. Videos posted by netizens show that when the Dongjiang Reservoir discharged floodwaters, the rapid flow swept away a sightseeing boat from a scenic area. As of 1 p.m. on July 28th, the water level of the Dongjiang Reservoir had reached 285.1 meters, and the discharge continued from 2 p.m. onward. The continuous discharge over 2 days has severely impacted Leiyang and Yongxing downstream. On July 29th, after the floodwaters receded, the scene was one of devastation. Many vehicles were destroyed, highways were washed out, houses collapsed, and bridges were damaged. Furthermore, on the 27th, a breach occurred at the Midu Power Station in Hukou Town, Quanzhou, with a width of 50 to 60 meters. An ex-account by the name of Old Driver claimed that this was a man-made disaster caused by welding steel plates to sluice gates, preventing them from opening, resulting in the breach and flooding Liaojiawan in Gemaoyuan. By the morning of the 28th, reports indicated that employees of the Midu power station had fled to shelters, some staying in hotels and other on the mountains, leaving the gates unlowered and abandoning the site. On July 28th, in Liaoning Province, 67 reservoirs discharged water, and the Yalu River flowed over its banks. However, officials described the situation as orderly water release. On the morning of the 28th, a landslide triggered by flash floods in Yuelin village of Nanyue District, Hengyang, Hunan, caused the collapse of a single-story house, burying 18 people, resulting in 12 deaths and 6 injuries. A Nanyue District official stated that initial assessments indicated that the house in Yuelin village was destroyed by a mudslide, and rescue personnel could only reach the site on foot as the roads were blocked by debris. Yuelin village is located on the west side of the Nanyue Hengshan Scenic Area, just a few kilometers away. Many tourists visiting the Hengshan Scenic Area chose to stay in local inns. Currently, it is the peak tourist season with high occupancies. At the moment, the road from Yuelin village to the Hengshan Scenic Area is marked as closed on Baidu Maps. An inn owner near the Nanyue Hengshan Scenic Area reported that the house buried by the landslide was a self-built home run as a family inn for over 10 years. During the weekend, many people had come to the mountains for a retreat and were staying at the inn. Another inn owner stated that they had suspended operations due to the landslide. Additionally, around 300 people are trapped on Hengshan Mountain. A Douyin user from Hunan commented, "Staying at the Shangfeng Temple, waiting for instructions, no cell signal, typhoon with heavy rain on the mountain, temperatures around 19 degrees Celsius, 300 people trapped at Shangfeng Temple." Public records show that Shangfeng Temple, located in Hengyang, Hunan, under the highest peak, Zhurong Peak, is one of the key Buddhist temples in the Han Chinese region. Hengyang City, Hunan, was also flooded, with significant water accumulation in the city. A large metal tank, possibly chemical equipment, was swept away by the floodwaters. On July 29th, after the floodwaters receded in Jiepai Town, Hengyang City, shop owners were busy cleaning mud and debris from the streets and their stores. One woman arrived at her shop to find it completely flooded, suffering heavy losses. "Everything is soaked. The goods are knocked all over. The shelves have been completely scattered and there's mud everywhere. It's a complete mess. Milk and drinks are scattered all over the place." On July 28th, in Ganzi, Sichuan, floodwaters were eroding the roadbed, causing continuous landslides. Pedestrians crossing the bridge above seemed unaware of the danger. It's a nerve-wracking sight. Previously, a fracture on the waterway road in Jinko River, Grand Canyon, Sichuan, revealed what appeared to be steel wires, prompting netizens to question why rebar was not used. Many criticized this as a typical example of shoddy construction. In addition to Hunan, northeastern China was also hit by heavy rains. Shenyang, Liaoning Province, recorded the strongest rainfall since meteorological records began in 1951. This July, Liaoning experienced its highest precipitation in 60 years. Unusual flooding occurred in Shenyang, with severe water accumulation on streets and in residential areas, which netizens attributed to flood discharges. On July 27th, local netizens filmed and reported. After a heavy rain, the rubber dam on the Huan River in Shenyang collapsed, causing a flood discharge. We haven't seen such a torrential Huan River in over 20 years. Another netizen posted, the flood discharge from Qipan Mountain turned this neighborhood into a vast ocean. On July 28th, Liaoning's largest reservoir, Feng Reservoir, discharged floodwaters, causing the Yalu River's water level to surge and overflow into riverside roads. The floodwaters inundated Dandong's urban area, submerging more than half of the city. Some utility poles were barely visible above the water, and the Yalu River boundary marker was half submerged. Officials reported that the water level in the urban section of the Yalu River exceeded the warning level by more than 2.5 meters, but did not provide information on casualties. Dandong City's 12345 hotline staff explained that the rising water levels were due to upstream flood discharges. The city's flood control and drought relief headquarters staff stated that the upstream reservoirs were still discharging and the water levels continued to rise. According to official media, on July 28th, 11 rivers in Liaoning experienced significant water level rises, including 6 major rivers and 5 smaller ones. 67 reservoirs, 8 large, 14 medium, and 54 small, were discharging water, which officials described as orderly water release. On July 28th, Huan River in Jilin experienced continuous heavy rainfall, causing water levels to rise rapidly, putting Baishan City in a critical situation. Linjiang City issued an urgent notice for residents in buildings below 3 stories to immediately move to higher ground. Local netizens posted videos saying, heavy rains have caused water levels to rise in many parts of Jilin. Yunfeng Reservoir in Jian has opened its gates for flood discharge. Stay strong, downstream villagers. On July 28th, Linjiang in Jilin was hit by a once-in-a-century flood, causing the Yalu River's water level to rise rapidly, overflowing dikes and bridges and submerging the river's central island. By the 29th, the floodwaters had finally receded, leaving a trail of severe damage in just one day. On July 28th, multiple islands in the North Korean side of the Yalu River were also flooded, endangering over 5,000 residents. Netizens captured footage of North Korean residents standing on rooftops awaiting rescue, while North Korean helicopters and boats appeared on the river. North Korean media reported that Kim Jong-un rushed to the disaster area to oversee relief efforts. Netizens questioned whether Xi Jinping would similarly visit the affected areas in China. Recently, continuous heavy rains across China, coupled with ongoing reservoir discharges, have worsened flood conditions. Sudden flood discharges without warning have caused significant losses and even fatalities. Previously, residents in Henan, Guangxi, and Fujian protested against official flood discharges that led to disasters. However, officials maintained that discharges were planned and conducted according to regulatory procedures. A hydrology expert based in Germany, Wang Weiluo, stated that many of China's flood discharges are controlled by sluice gates. He said, the Chinese government will release less water if they deem the situation not critical, and more if it is, thereby posing a greater threat downstream. They seldom report the true number of casualties, or they underreport it. While other countries occasionally discharge floods, they choose sparsely populated areas to minimize impact. Only in China, where officials claim to serve the people, is there such disregard for citizens' lives and property, which is both ironic and tragic.